We are working on the Acura MDX today. This is a 2011. We're just going to be doing a simple oil change. I say simple, but this is actually one of the more annoying oil changes that I have to do. I say that solely because of the angles that you have to deal with in doing an oil change on this car. You have to have it in the air because you can't get it underneath it otherwise. So either up on ramps or on stands. The angle of the oil fill cap is already weird underneath the shroud, but now that you have it in the air and the front end of the vehicle up, you really have to get down at a weird angle to get to it. And the dipstick is the same, kind of down here. It's weird. So everything is kind of hidden, tucked back in there. It's hard to get a funnel that's long enough. You can get a flexible one, but then they tend to throw oil everywhere. It's kind of annoying. We shouldn't need a whole lot to accomplish the task today. About 4.5 quarts of oil, an oil filter, 17mm socket and a wrench, some rubber gloves, and some paper towels might be a little bit handy as well. And of course, you also need an oil drain pan and a funnel. I went with Valvoline 5W30 for this oil change. It takes 4.5 quarts. I have 6 just for a little extra to have left over. I think the car actually calls for 5W20, but we went with 5W30. This car has almost 220,000 miles on it at this point. So just up the viscosity a little bit for the operating temperature specification. So went to a 30 instead of a 20. I always take the oil fill cap off first before draining the oil. It just helps the oil flow more smoothly out of the engine. We went with the Mobil 1 oil filter. I've had good luck with Mobil 1 oil filters. You can see I have full synthetic high mileage oil here. I think the high mileage stuff is more of a gimmick than anything, but they didn't have any of the standard Valvoline full synthetic oil there at 5W30. So we went with the high mileage stuff. Shouldn't hurt anything. You want to replace the washer on the drain plug as well. Just hand tight here, folks. I'm gonna go crazy. All right, everything's buttoned up. We got the drain plug with the new washer secured, and we got the new oil filter in there. This funnel I actually picked up from a Quick Trip gas station, Quick Trip of the South. It's QT, right? This is actually probably one of the better $5 purchases I've ever made. This is a flexible funnel that actually can shrink down too. It doesn't have the long flexible hose that tends to leak. It screws in. So you get a nice leak-free seal here at the funnel. So this is going to come in handy for this particular oil change. Again, this is about 4.5 quarts capacity. We'll get about 4 in there, and then we'll back it off the rams and get it nice and level, and then we'll top it off. All right, we're just at about 4 quarts now. barely up onto that first line. So we'll definitely continue adding a little bit more oil. So you can see we're right at about 4.5 quarts, maybe just shy of 4.5 quarts, but remember we did put a little in the oil filter at first, so we'll let it settle down in the engine here. And we'll check the dipstick and see if we came up onto that hashing a little bit. Clean it off first because it picked some up probably as we put it back down in the tube. And we're about right, focus, maybe right in the middle of the hashing. So that's probably pretty good. Certainly don't want to overfill it, but I put a touch more in because, you know, I can't leave well enough alone. So we'll see where we're at now. I think that's probably good. All right, we're inside the car and we want to reset our oil life. So you turn the key to the second position, the accessories mode. Then you press up on your info button until you get the screen that you want. So if you get to, this is your information screen, essentially it's showing tire pressure is okay right now. You can hit the select button. And as you do that, it brings up the other screens. You can see trip B, outside temperature, oil life. So once you see oil life, we can see it's at 30%, but you just press and hold the reset button then. That should bring us up to the option to reset oil life. There it is. You have to hold it for maybe 10 seconds. Select, push the up button then to select reset. And then you hit the reset button again. And now you can see that oil life had been switched back to 100%. Now you might be saying, well, you still had 30% of oil life left. Why did you change the oil? Well, the main reason is I do not trust the oil monitoring systems in vehicles because they're based on mileage. Any modern vehicle, if you look at the handbook, it'll say between 7,500 and 10,000 miles. Even newer vehicles these days say 20,000 mile oil changes. That's crazy. So I always just look at mileage, and I always try to change the oil within 5,000 to 6,000 miles. I think you're really pushing the limits if you go beyond that, to be quite honest. Even with new fully synthetic oil, it's not a good idea in my opinion. I think 5,000 to 6,000 miles is the sweet spot for these vehicles these days. Even more regularly, possibly. If you are in hot, dusty, dirty climates and driving in a lot of stop and go traffic, you put a lot of strain on your engine more frequently, 5,000 miles or less, to be honest. Well, that is it, guys. A pretty simple project on the old MDX today. If you have any questions, leave them down in the comments below. I get to every single one of them as quickly as I possibly can. Appreciate you watching this one. More stuff coming for the channel. You might be interested in it, so subscribe if you haven't already. Thanks a lot again. See you in the next one.